Okay, so today I'm gonna discuss the fifth step in the accounting cycle. It's the adjusting entries. And these are our learning objectives. First is to enumerate the common end of period adjustments, and next is to prepare the adjusting entries. Let's discuss first what is an adjusting entry. Adjusting entries are entries made prior to the preparation of financial statements to update certain accounts so that they reflect correct balances as of the designated time. And what's the purpose of these adjusting entries? First is to take up unrecorded income and expenses of the period and to split mixed accounts into their real and nominal elements. Mix real and nominal accounts will be discussed momentarily. So, real accounts, or it's the permanent accounts. These are accounts that are not closed at the end of the accounting period. These accounts include all balance sheet accounts except the owner's drawings account. So we've discussed previously the different accounts under balance sheet, and these are all real accounts. Yun yung classification niya. Sabi nga except for the owner's drawings. Next is the nominal accounts. Ito naman yung mga temporary accounts. These are closed at the end of the accounting period, kaya siya temporary lang. These accounts include all income statement accounts, drawing accounts, clearing accounts, and suspense accounts. Na-discuss na din natin lahat ng accounts under income statement in the previous discussions. And next is the mixed accounts. Mixed accounts, these are accounts that have both real and nominal account components. These accounts are subject to adjustments. So before adjustments, yung mixed account magkasama si real and nominal accounts. Kapag nagkaroon ka ng adjusting entry, isi-separate mo yung two components. And after adjustment, masa-separate mo na ngayon si real account which is presented in the balance sheet and the nominal account which is presented in the income statement. Now, these are the methods of initial recording of income. May dalawang method. Nung mga previous transactions, previous chapters, na-discuss ko na kapag nag-record ka ng income, kunwari nakabenta ka dun sa example natin for barbecue. Kapag nakabenta ka ng barbecue at naka-receive ka ng 1,000 pesos as payment for that barbecue, ang entry mo doon ay debit cash, 1,000 pesos, and credit sales, 1,000 pesos. Yun yung ginagawa natin. Yun yung initial entry mo. Ngayon, may dalawang recording of income. Pwedeng liability method or income method. Pag sinabing liability method, dahil nga liability method siya, yung cash under this method, cash receipts from items of income are initially credited to a liability account. And at the end of the period, the earned portion is recognized as income while the unearned portion remains as liability. So kapag nakatanggap ka daw ng pera, para dun sa sales mo, for example, it's initially recorded as a liability account. And at the end of the period, yung na-earn mong portion ng na-receive mo, yun yung i-recognize mo lang as income while the unearned portion will remain as liability. Anyway, examples will be discussed later. Another one is the income method. Under this method, cash receipts from items of income are initially credited to an income account naman agad. And at the end of the period, the unearned portion is recognized as liability while the earned portion remains as income. Ang regardless kung anong magiging gamit mong method dito, parehas lang din naman yung magiging ending income amount mo at liability amount mo. So these are the methods for the recording of income. Another one is the method for initial recording of expenses, asset method and expense method. So in asset method, cash disbursements for items or of expenses are initially debited to an asset account. And at the end of the period, the incurred portion or yun yung used up or expired portion will be recognized as expense while the unused portion will remain as asset. Sa expense method naman, cash disbursements for items of expenses are initially debited naman to an expense account. And at the end of the period, yung unused portion mo or what we call the unexpired or not yet incurred portion will be recorded as asset while the incurred portion remains as expense. So let's check the module that was given to you para makita natin yung mga examples. Okay. Mhm. So you may read the introduction and the basis sa first part ng module nyo. Okay. Ito na yung asset method and the expense method. Okay. Dito na tayo sa examples. Prepaid rent. For example, on May 1, Jevera Wedding Consultancy paid 8,000 for 2 months rent in advance. This expenditure resulted to an asset consisting of the right to occupy the office for 2 months. A portion of the asset expires and becomes an expense each day. So by May 31, one half of the asset had expired and should be treated as an expense. Siyempre, natanggap, nung nagbayad ka ng renta, 'di ba dun sa explanation ko before, kailangan mong i-analyze yung entry kung anong magi-increase asset, liabilities, and equity. If kung asset, anong particular asset based dun sa naging discussion natin kung anong ibig sabihin ng mga per account. So dito, dahil nagbayad siya ng 8,000 rent ng May 1 for 2 months in advance to. So dahil in advance yung payment niya, ang sabi ko before, i-record mo siya as prepaid rent. So debit prepaid rent, 8,000 pesos. Credit cash, 8,000 pesos. Ngayon, anong magiging adjusting entry mo after 1 month? So, May 1 ka nagbayad. After 1 month, of course, May 31, nag-expire na or nagamit mo na yung 4,000 dun sa 8,000. Remember, the 8,000 consists 2 months rent in advance. So, by May 31, used up mo na yung 4,000 pesos. At dahil used up mo na siya, mawawala na ngayon sa asset mo. At i-record mo na siya as expense. So, the entry will be debit rent expense, 4,000 pesos, credit, prepaid rent, 4,000 pesos. And if we will analyze the account prepaid rent, if your beginning prepaid rent is 8,000 and the expired portion is already 4,000 by May 31, magkano na lang ang naiwan mong prepaid rent? So, ang naiwan mo na lang na prepaid rent ay another 4,000 pesos which will be used from June 1 to June 30. So, this is an example of the adjusting entry for prepaid rent. Another one, prepaid insurance naman. Rivera Wedding Consultancy acquired a one-year comprehensive insurance coverage on the service vehicle and paid 14,400 premiums. In a manner similar to prepaid rent, insurance offers in a manner similar to prepaid rent, prepaid insurance offers protections that expires daily. So kung 14,400 ang premium na binayaran niya at 1 year yon, ibig sabihin every month merong nag expire na 1,200 pesos na insurance or yun yung nagagamit mo for a month. So every time, balikan muna natin, anong naging entry ni Jivera Wedding Consultancy nung nagbayad siya ng insurance in advance for 1 year. So, ang entry niya ay debit prepaid insurance, 14,400 and credit cash, 14,400 pesos. Ngayon, monthly, of course, may portion ng 14,400 na nag-expire. And it is 1,200 pesos na nag-expire monthly. Paano nakuha yon? So, syempre, 14,400 divided by 12 months is 1,200 monthly. So, every month, may mag-expire at ang magiging entry mo ay debit insurance, 1,200 and debit insurance expense, 1,200 and credit prepaid insurance na 1,200 pesos. So, monthly mong magiging entry to. So, by the end of the year, wala ka nang maiiwang prepaid insurance kasi nagdi-decrease siya monthly ng 1,200 pesos. Paki-correct na lang yung amount sa inyong module. Next, supplies. On May 8, Juvera Wedding Consultancy purchased supplies. So, 18,000 yung amount ng supplies niya. Anong naging entry kaya niya dito? So, debit supplies, asset to, kasi hindi pa niya nagagamit. So, debit supplies, which is an asset, 18,000 pesos, and credit cash, 18,000 pesos. So, during the month, the entity used supplies in the process of performing services for clients. There is no need to account for these supplies every day since the financial statements will not be prepared until the end of the month. At the end of the accounting period, Jivera makes a careful physical count which showed that supplies costing 15,000 are still on hand. So out of the 18,000 daw na binili niyang supplies, at the end of the month, nung chinek niya, 15,000 na lang ang naiwang supplies. Ibig sabihin, 3,000 already expired or nagamit na niya. At as discussed before, kapag nagagamit na yung supplies or the asset, it should be recorded as an expense account. So, mababawasan na yung asset mo, kaya magkakredit na tayo ng asset. So, the entry will be debit supplies expense, 3,000 pesos. Credit supplies, which is an asset, 3,000 pesos. Another adjustment, the depreciation of property and equipment. When an entity acquires long-lived assets such as buildings, service vehicles, computers, or office furniture, it is basically buying or preparing for the usefulness of that asset. These assets help generate income for the entity. Therefore, a portion of the cost of the assets should be reported as expense in each accounting period. Proper accounting requires the allocation of the cost of the asset over its estimated useful life. The estimated amount allocated to any accounting period is called depreciation or depreciation expense. Three factors are involved in computing depreciation expense. The cost of the asset, it is the amount an entity paid to acquire the depreciable asset. The estimated salvage value, it is the amount that the asset can probably be sold for the end of its estimated useful life. And the estimated useful life, It is the estimated number of periods that an entity can make use of the asset. Useful life is an estimate. It is not an exact measurement. So, nung bumili ka ng asset, for example, service vehicle, ang magiging entry mo doon ay debit service vehicle, credit cash. And mag-e-estimate ngayon si company kung gaano katagal siya magagamit ng company, at yun yung magiging basis niya para mag-compute siya ng depreciation expense. So let's check this one. For example, service, vehicle, and office equipment. Suppose that Juvera Wedding Consultancy estimated that the service vehicle which was bought on May 4, worth 420,000, will last for 7 years and with a salvage value of 84,000 pesos. The office equipment worth 60,000 was acquired on May 5, which will have a useful life of 5 years and will be worth less at the time. Paano natin siya i-analyze? Paano natin i-compute ngayon yung depreciation expense niya? So, i-start natin kay service vehicle. Si service vehicle, meron siyang cost of 420,000 pesos. Ngayon, kailangan nating ibawas yung salvage value niyang 84,000. So, yung 336,000, we need to divide it to the number of years kung yung estimated useful life niya, which is 7 years. So, 336,000 divided by 7 years is 48,000. Ibig sabihin, every year, bumababa yung value nung service vehicle for magkano yung na-compute natin? So, 420 minus 84, 336 divided by 7 years, the estimated useful life. So, every year, 48,000 ang estimation na ibinababa ng value ng service vehicle. 48,000 every year. Ngayon, i-compute natin. So, magkano monthly? So, 4,000 monthly ang ibinababa ng value niya, which should be recorded as a depreciation expense. So, for every month, we will be recording depreciation expense, service vehicle, 4,000 pesos. Credit accumulated depreciation, service vehicle, 4,000 pesos. Monthly yan. So, at the end of the year, you will be recording depreciation expense for service vehicle amounting to a total of 48,000. How about the office equipment? Itong office equipment, wala siyang salvage value. So, we don't need to deduct this in the cost bago natin siya i-divide sa useful life. So, office equipment is 60,000 pesos. Divide mo na lang siya diretso sa useful life of 5 years. So, 12,000. Every year, there will be a depreciation expense of 12,000 pesos for 5 years yon. So, 12,000 every year. Pero monthly tayo magre-record. So, magkano siya monthly? So, 12,000 divided by 12. So, monthly, there's a depreciation expense of office equipment amounting to 1,000 pesos. So, debit depreciation expense, office equipment, 1,000, and credit accumulated depreciation, office equipment, 1,000 pesos. So, kung i-analyze mo siyang mabuti, pagdating ng 5 years, yung office equipment mo worth 60,000, syempre, ang magiging total accumulated depreciation mo na din by that time is 60,000. So, yung book value niya magiging 0 na. Next is let's discuss the adjustment naman for accruals. Okay. So, an entity often incurs expenses before paying for them. Cash payments are usually made at regular intervals of time, such as weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annually. If the accounting period ends on a date that does not coincide with the scheduled cash payment date, an adjusting entry is needed to reflect the expense incurred since the last payment. For example, Rivera Wedding Consultancy pays salaries every 2 Saturdays. Assume that the calendar for May appears as follows. Every 2 Saturdays, meron siyang binabayarang salary daw. The office assistant and the account executive were paid salaries on May 13 and May 27. Dito daw siya binabayaran. And at the end of the month, the employees have worked for 3 days, May 29, May 30, and 31, beyond the last pay period. So, nagbayad ka ng salary ng 27, pero may tatlo pang i-work daw sila after ng payment mo. So, the employees have earned the salary for these days, but it is not due to be paid until the regular payday in April. The salary for these 3 days is rightfully an expense for May. So, dahil pumatak siya sa May, pero hindi mo siya nabayaran kasi last na bayad mo sa empleyado mo daw 27. So, itong 29, 30 at 31, sa April mo pa siya babayaran. Pero dahil expense to na-incur mo sa May, yung liabilities mo, yung utang mo sa empleyado mo, should reflect in the records for the financial records ng May. Paano mo siya ngayon i-compute at i-entry? So each of the employees' rate is 7,800 per month or 300 per day. 7,800 divided by 26 working days. The expense to be accrued is 1,800, which is 300 times 3 days, which is the 29th, 30th, and the 31st, times 2 employees kasi dalawa sila. Paano mo siya i-record? Debit salary expense, 1,800 kasi salary siya ng May, and credit salaries payable, 1,800. Ma'am, kailan mawawala yung salaries payable? So, it will be debited kapag binayaran na siya sa April, sa first Saturday ng April. Okay, next. On May 2, Jevera borrowed 210,000 from Metro Bank. She issued a promissory note that carried a 20% interest per annum. Both the interest and principal will be payable in 1 year. The note issued to the bank accrues interest at 20% annually. At the end of May, Jevera owed the bank 3,500 for the interest in addition to the 210,000 loan. Interest is charged for the use of money over time. Interest expense is matched to a particular period during which with the benefit the use of borrowed money is received. Okay, so how will we compute the interest which should be recorded in the books? So, let's compute first the interest. The principal is 210,000 times the 20% per year times 1/12 of a year kasi 1 month yung i-record mong interest. So, 10,000 times 20% times 1/12, it's 3,500 monthly. So, monthly, meron kang 3,500. So, how will you record it? Debit interest expense of 3,500 and credit interest payable 3,500. Remember that this interest payable will be debited or will be debited at the end of the year kapag binayaran na siya. Kasi sabi dito sa problem, the interest and the principal will be payable in 1 year. Next is the accrued revenues. An entity may provide services during the period that are neither paid for by the clients nor billed at the end of the period. The value of these services represents revenue earned by the entity. Any revenue that has been earned but not recorded during the accounting period calls for an adjusting entry that debits an asset account and credits an income account. So let's give an example. Suppose that Rivera agreed to arrange a rush but simple civil wedding for a madly in love couple in the afternoon of May 31. The entity intended to charge fees of 5,300 for the services which is earned but unbilled. Paano mo siya i-record? Hindi ka pa nababayaran ng client, pero na-earn mo na yung revenue kasi na-render mo na rin yung services. So the entry will be debit accounts receivable of 5,300. This is an asset account and credit consulting services amounting to 5,300 pesos. Accrual for uncollectible accounts. Okay, pwede mo na rin siyang i-check. Okay, check natin. Let's analyze the accounts using the accounts. To illustrate, equitors established by Gary De Vera at the start of the month reported at month end the following related accounts and account balances. Supplies is 36,600 and supplies expense is 15,400. Looking at the foregoing, De Vera wants to know um, how much cash was paid out to purchase supplies. Start by placing the relevant information in the account. Input the beginning balance on the normal balance of the account. In this case, supplies is debited. There is no beginning balance since the company just started operations this month. As a technique, the ending balance of an account here, supplies for 36,600, is placed opposite its normal balance. In adjusting supplies expense, the entry made was debit supplies expense 15,400 and credit supplies 15,400. Total both debits and credit sides. The cash paid out for supplies can be derived. It's 52,000 minus 0. So let's check the T account. Ito, ibaba natin. Ay, mali. So ito, pabaliktad lang siya. Para ini-squeeze mo lang siya para makuha mo yung total amounts within the T account. Okay. So these are the summary of adjusting entries. So these are the summary of adjusting entries. Type of adjustment. Prepaid expenses, asset method, and expense method. So assets are overstated in asset method kasi lahat doon i-record mo muna. And expenses is understated. Debit expense account, credit prepaid expense. Pero sabi nga at the end of the month or at the end of the year, ibabalik mo din or i-adjust mo yung tamang expense at tamang asset, tamang amount niya. So, check nyo na lang tong summary of adjusting entries. Okay. So, this ends the discussion on adjusting entries. If you have questions, feel free to send a message in our Teams and GC. And I will also post additional examples para hindi kayo medyo nalilito. Mas madaming examples magpo-post ako today. So please wait for it. Thank you.